Good morning, everyone. Thank you to CCIM and to IRM for having me. I'm excited to be here to discuss the industrial market. I'm always interested in that retail slide during these forecasts, that the one with the heading that says retailers coming or retailers rumored to be coming soon to Hawaii. And I thought about doing something like that for the industrial presentation, but I had to omit it because that slide would look something like if and only if you are fortunate enough to find some industrial zone raw land. And if and only if after 18 to 24 months you are fortunate enough to get your permits, and if and only if after getting your construction costs back, the project's still penciled, and if and only if you could sell that dream to your bank in a higher interest rate environment, one new warehouse would soon be coming to Kapolei, and we'd have to start that process over and over again. What I thought we would do is break this presentation into three parts. The first part being a compare and contrast with our national industrial market. The middle portion of the presentation being some happenings on Oahu in the industrial sector over the past 12 to 18 months. And then, of course, the forecast portion of this presentation being saved for the end. Okay, well, let's dive right in. And then we'll start with our nationwide industrial statistics and then compare them to our Oahu statistics. So on a nationwide basis in the US, total industrial inventory is around 17.5 billion square feet. And that increases generally by about 4% a year or 700 million square feet. And during COVID, that increased a lot faster. If you divide that 17.5 billion by the US population, you get about 50 square feet per US resident, about the size of a king bed. So keep that in mind. At the end of 2022, our US industrial vacancy rate was between 3.5% and 4%. And in 2019, that was 5%. So it's down, despite the building boom that occurred through COVID, it's down about 20% since 2019. At the end of 2022, our average industrial base rents on the US mainland, or the US average in total, 70 cents a square foot. In 2019, that was 49 cents a square foot, so up 40% over that time. So keep all of those statistics in mind. Moving to Oahu, 41 million square feet. If you divide that by the permanent population on Oahu, you get 40 square feet per permanent resident, so 20% in the US mainland. If you add in our 9 or 10 million visitor count per year and assume that they came evenly and divided that into our industrial inventory, we get 23 square feet per person on Oahu at any given time, so about half of the US mainland. So consider that maybe a twin size bed. And so no wonder our vacancy rate and our asking rents are what they are. At the end of 2022, our Oahu industrial vacancy rate was 0.81%, one of the tightest in the nation. It represents about 300,000 or 350,000 square feet of product, regardless of size. And 350,000 square feet is about 1/7 of the size of a Hanes underwear distribution warehouse in Chicago. So it's functionally zero. At the end of 2022, our average industrial asking base rent was $1.48 a square foot, up from $1.21 in 2019, so about a 20% increase. And remember, on the mainland, it's increased 40%, on Oahu about 20%. And we'll get to why, but that reason, I believe, is operating expenses that have increased a lot faster than base rent growth. And then less than 60 available industrial listings on Oahu, regardless of size, island-wide. So in 2019, that was over 220. In 2012, that was over 350. So the cliff notes here: record low vacancy, record low availabilities, record high rental rates. For further perspective on our markets similar in size to Oahu around the nation: Huntsville, Alabama, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Boise, Idaho, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Palm Beach, Florida. So markets that we don't think of as industrial powerhouses, and compare those to our largest industrial submarkets in the United States: Chicago and Los Angeles, including the Inland Empire, 1.2 billion apiece; Jersey, Eastern and Central Pennsylvania, and Dallas, Fort Worth, around 700 million square feet apiece. And I know a lot of people like to ask about Amazon. So Amazon occupies 250 million square feet in the US, 5 times the size of our market on Oahu, and about 1.5% of our entire stock of industrial space in the US. Moving on to what's happened in our market recently, strong absorption of industrial product. So in 2021, we had an industrial vacancy rate around 2%. And then we had 450,000 square feet of new product hit the market in Kapolei amongst 2 projects. Thomas Sorensen's Hanoi Distribution Center and Nan Inc. built a multi-tenant project. So that brought our vacancy rate up when that product hit the market unabsorbed to 3%. And since then, all of that's been absorbed and more, driving our vacancy rate down to where it is today at 0.81%. Completion of ground rent resets and expirations in Mapunapuna and Halava. So 40 to 50% of our market is leasehold. And in Mapunapuna, about 30% of that product, the ground lease is expired. So that was an opportunity for vacancy that didn't exist or didn't occur. Those ground leases that expired either found new master lessees or the existing master lessees executed new ground leases. And then in Halava, there were some ground rent resets that occurred, not expirations, but resets, which gave way to a potential for some vacancy, and that also did not occur. Those resets were successful, and those businesses or master lessees continue to occupy or lease out the properties. Big box industrial expansions. So Amazon bought 15 acres on Sand Island for $200 a square foot. Amazon bought 50 acres in Kapolei for $50 a square foot. Costco bought 45 acres in Kapolei for $75 a square foot. Home Depot has taken over the new Ranch 99 or the old Ranch 99 market in Mapunapuna, and they're looking for space. There's other big box users that are in our market looking to take up larger swaths of land. And it's been that activity that's taken away from inventory that would otherwise be for owner users in our market. And then aside from the big box users, strong owner user and investment sale activity despite rising interest rates. So Love's Bakery traded, 504 North Nimitz traded, Evelay Business Center has potentially found a buyer. And any property that comes up on the market that's reasonably priced and in reasonably good condition has moved quickly throughout 2022. At the end of 2022, the Weinberg Foundation brought some properties on the market that were leased fee interests, and those sold at record high prices and in some cases below a 4 cap. Moving on to our predictions for 2023. Let's start with market strengths. So little new supply for most of 2023. There'll be a few project starts in 2023. James Campbell's building a building. Christine Camp has a couple projects. Those projects will be marketed and the construction will begin in 23, but they won't complete until 2024 or later. Industrial will continue to be the clear winner. I think with the effects of COVID has had on the office and retail marketplace, there's a lot of eyes on industrial. There's a lot of innovation going on in industrial right now. There's a lot of people that care about, industrial going forward and think about things like reverse logistics, shifting e-commerce preference. So in Asia, over 40% of what's purchased is purchased online. In the US, that's under 20%. During COVID, it rose a little bit above 20%, but is back down again. So I think there's a lot of room to run there for an increase in e-commerce spending, which helps industrial. And then when I think of why an investor may be interested in commercial real estate, especially if they're not an owner user, I think of this acronym IRAD. And IRAD stands for inflation protection, rental growth, appreciation, amortization, diversification, and depreciation. And of all of the points or portions of IRAD, industrial is completely green lit. So the people that care about these things see industrial as a favorite asset class for them. Moving on to market weaknesses, availability of raw land. So the big box users that took up our inventory or stock that was set to come to the market for the next 2 or 3 years has created an environment where there's very little raw land that's available. And so that will hamper activity in our industrial market. At least for the next 2 to 3 years, there won't be a material delivery of industrial raw land. Interest rates, I have to give the banks a lot of credit. Interest rates were 4.5% in 2018, and nobody talked about them then as much. Interest rates are not 2.5% today, as you know, but they've settled around 5.25%, 5.5% in Hawaii, and I think the banks have been quite competitive. Availability of skilled labor. So when I talk to my clients about expansion, this conversation comes up each and every time. And it's, if I expand, Bill, do I have the labor force to hire? And it especially gets more prudent when we talk about skilled trades, auto body, construction, engineering, that kind of stuff. And then construction costs. I think part of our supply chain or part of our shipping issues have resolved themselves, but it seems that every commodity has a different story why it's up 20% year over year. And if it's iron and ore, it's because of Ukraine and Russia. And if it's sand for concrete, it's because of shutdowns in China. And if it's, copper, it's a different story. And they're all up 20% or more year over year. Moving to our predictions for 2023, government spending will fuel industrial activity. And this is both on the federal government and the state government side. Biden's spending plan is set to divert $2.8 billion to Hawaii. So broadband, good for industrial. Housing, good for industrial. Infrastructure, good for industrial. And then on the state side, we have a overfunded / fully funded state government that's building a rail and is building a jail and wants to build a new stadium and has other spending plans that include housing and other infrastructure projects, sewer, water, all of those things. All of that's good for industrial. And base rent growth will be affected by increases in operating expenses. So long before we got the news about residential property tax increases, the city and county increased property taxes for industrial, and it happened year over year, more than 10%. And so that increased operating expenses. Then came increases in electricity and water and labor for property management and insurance and construction costs for CapEx and repair items. So all of that drove up our operating expenses faster than base rent could grow. And I think that's really hampered the growth that would otherwise occur in base rents. And I think that will continue to occur in 2023 and settle out in 2024 when base rent growth starts to increase faster than it had during those periods. Then vacancy won't materially change until zoning and permitting changes. So in order to move our vacancy rate up 1%, I need 400,000 square feet of new product. And if 400,000 square feet of new product was built, I would need 20 acres. And I don't have 20 acres. There isn't 20 acres of zoned industrial land that's waiting to be purchased or is waiting to be entitled at this moment. And so barring catastrophic business failure or some black swan event, I don't see our vacancy rate changing from 1% through 2023 and likely into 2024. And it's my prediction that our vacancy rate will dip probably below 0.7% in 2023 and beyond. And then what can you do to help Hawaii get more industrial zone land and support industrial development? Now, I know industrial land is somewhat of an afterthought given all of the needs in Hawaii for housing, for ag, for green energy. But it's industrial zone land that helps diversify our economy, and it's industrial development that provides good jobs and helps support our tax base. So please do what you can to encourage the zoning of industrial land and to support industrial development. Thank you very much for your time.